For Black History Month, a powerful exhibit at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College connects the past with the present. A Jackson artist is using quilts to tell stories of freedom, both historical and personal. Parker Boyd has the story.
Colorful quilts fill the fine art gallery at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, but they tell a darker story. Jackson artist Raven Lovett created this display called Codes to Freedom, to honor enslaved people who used quilts as secret maps to escape on the Underground Railroad.
Freedom seems like it's accessible, but someone had to pay the price.
Each pattern carried a hidden meaning. Bear claws meant to take the mountain path where bears roam to find food and water. Bow tie told the slaves to dress like free people to avoid suspicion. And flying geese said to follow the birds heading north in the spring.
These quilts served a functional utilitarian purpose, but they had coded messages that only the slaves knew.
Lovett is an art therapist with a master's degree in art education. She learned to quilt from her grandmother. She says that childhood skill became something much more powerful during her own difficult times growing up.
I had issues with depression, anxiety. As I share my experience through my quilting, I'm hoping that will help someone else and maybe deal with some issues that they've had over the years.
She says she was bullied as a child. This quilt shows her journey as a young girl and her path to healing. Lovett stitched the 23rd Psalm onto this quilt, and just as those patterns helped the enslaved people get through their darkness, her faith helped her get through her own.
Not only my mental health journey, but my journey into being more confident as a young woman, as a believer in Jesus Christ.
Gallery director Cicely Cummings says this exhibit will give students a double lesson.
This has been a great exhibit to share with my fine art students because they're getting a lesson about abstract art, and then they learn the deeper meaning of these pieces, that these were symbols that were used as a coded message in the Underground Railroad. The personal symbols she chose in her own work were a form of liberation for her as well. It helped her have freedom from her anxiety and depression and become the person she is today.
For Lovett, the quilts represent freedom in every sense of the word. Freedom for those who escaped slavery, and freedom for those still fighting their own battles today. In Gulfport, Parker Boyd, WLOX News Now.
Codes to Freedom runs through March 13th at the college's Fine Arts Gallery on the Harrison County campus. The exhibit is free and open to the public.